Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah. Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah.
Inna alhamdulillah wa salat wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to another session of our series on Tawheed versus Sufism. And in this series, this is based on the book written by Shaykh Muhammad Saeed Atli. It's a book that delves into what it is that causes Sufism, the methodology of Sufism, to contradict true Tawheed. You know, it's a book that's written to outline and show how the belief system or the beliefs in which this methodology is based on, you know, is in total contradiction to what our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. And today's two chapters, today we're going to be covering two chapters of the book. We're going to speak about, first off, we're going to speak about how the Sufis, they base a lot of miraculous occurrences occurrences that they claim to be miracles, they attribute to their scholars or their Shaykh, when in reality, these are not miracles. As we talked about, in order for something to be a miraculous occurrence, it comes from Allah. And Allah is not going to send miracles and that appear as a result of things that contradict what he tells us to stay in sync with or to not do. For example, let me open up the book. When we look at, for example, a lot of people will say, dear Sister Layla, I was sitting in a drug house. Everybody was smoking marijuana or doing crack. And all of a sudden, a man began to float in the sky and he was able to fly through the air. You know, this is not a miracle from Allah. This is the shayateen, the devils. You know, evil. As Allah says, do you want to know who the devils descend upon? They descend upon the sinful people. So if a miraculous occurrence occurs and it's induced through sinful actions, that is not from Allah. Or if the environment is filthy, that is not from Allah. Or if you're using haram things to call upon the occurrence, that is not from Allah either. And you're going to see that in today's session. And one of the things that Shaykh Atli speaks about in this chapter, he speaks about the story of El-Qidr. He says the reason being because the story of El-Qidr plays a big role in Sufism. Okay, they use the story of El-Qidr as a principle of their belief system. And let me go over, just to refresh everyone's memory, let me review the story of El-Qidr. Allah speaks about the story of El-Qidr in the Quran. He tells us that Prophet Moses, alayhi salam, was giving a sermon to the children of Israel, okay? And after his sermon, a man asked him, he said, oh, Moses, is there anyone who is more knowledgeable than you? And Moses said, no, I'm the most knowledgeable person. And Allah didn't like this. So Allah admonished Moses because he said Moses should have said, Allah knows best, okay? And so Moses, being a prophet, he asked Allah, he said, Allah, I didn't know. He said, who is more knowledgeable than me? And Allah told him, He said, I have a servant who is more knowledgeable than you. And Moses asked Allah, he said, can you direct me to this person so I can meet him and I can learn from him? Okay. And so what happened is Allah told Moses where he could go to find this person. And he told him to take a fish with him. He would find the person where he left the fish. And so Moses left in search of this man named Kidder, because that's the man that Allah said he would learn from. And Moses took a servant, attendant with him. And they kept the fish as a meal to eat. And after they had traveled for a distance, they went to sleep. And Moses woke up and said, bring me my meal because I'm ready to eat it now. And that's when his attendant said, oh, I forgot the fish. I left the fish, on its way to the sea when we stopped a while back. So Moses said, well, that's what we were looking for. That's where I'm supposed to find El Kidder. So they backtracked themselves to where they left the fish. And that's where Moses found the man named Kidder. And Moses asked him, he said, can I hang out with you for a while so that you can teach me of the knowledge that Allah has given you? And El Kidder told Moses, you're not going to be patient with me. And Moses said, oh, I'll be patient with you, but and El Kidder said, well, I'm telling you, I know you're going to question whatever I do. But if you cannot question whatever I do, I'll let you travel with me. So they went on their journey together and they happened to come to a boat. They got in the boat. And as they were in the boat with the man who was allowed them to ride in his boat, Kidder put a hole in the boat. And Moses asked him, why did you put a hole in this boat to drown these people when these people helped us, offered us a ride across the sea? And that's when El Kidder said, didn't I tell you that you wouldn't be patient with me? Moses said, okay, forgive me, please. I won't ask you anything else. So they continued on their journey and they met a young man. And when they saw this young man, El Kidder killed him. And Moses said, why would you kill a little boy, who's done nothing? And that's when El Kidder said, didn't I tell you that you wouldn't be patient with me? And Moses said, okay, forgive me, for asking the question. I promise I won't ask of anything else from you. So they continued on their journey and they reached some people who asked them to build a wall for them. No, Moses and El Kidder asked for some lodging and food from them. The people refused. But as Moses and El Kidder were leaving, they saw a wall that was about to fall. So El Kidder went and rebuilt the wall. And Moses said, why didn't you make those people pay us for rebuilding the wall? And that's when El Kidder told him, look, we have to separate from here. He said, but before I let you go, I'm going to tell you why I did what I did. He said, as for the boat, it belonged to poor men and they plied it on the water. I only wished to make it unserviceable, for there was after them a certain king who wanted to take the boat by force. So by putting a hole in the boat, it stopped the king from taking them by force. He said, as for the young boy that I killed, his parents were very God-fearing parents. And had that boy lived, he would have grown up to be a bad person to cause them pain. So I killed him so that Allah will bless them with a better son in conduct. He said, and as for the wall, it belonged to 2 orphans. And beneath that wall was a buried treasure that they were entitled to. So Allah asked that, desired that they should grow up and get the treasure from him. So that's why Allah had me rebuild the wall so no one would find it. So, the bottom line of the story is it shows the bottom line of the story is that it shows, how knowledgeable El-Khidr was over Moses. So, as Shaykh Atli goes on to say in the book, the Sufis, they twist this story around. They are always looking to find the hidden meaning behind something. So the Sufis, they read this story about El-Khidr and Moses, and they use it to say that we are not supposed to ask or question the Shaykh. A Shaykh can know something that nobody else knows. The Shaykh is more knowledgeable than any of us, so we should never question him. And if you happen to question a Shaykh, you will be kicked out of the group. If you want to be with the Shaykh and be included in his group and be accepted, then you have to listen to him, obey him, don't question him, and accept that he's more knowledgeable than you. This is one of their rules. And there's other stories that Shaykh Atli tells us that shows this. For example, he said that growing up in Egypt, he heard the story of another Shaykh. This was a Shaykh that used to pray the prayer in congregation. There was a man who used to go to the mosque in Egypt to pray the Dhuhr prayer, but he never saw the imam or the Shaykh lead them or pray with them. Every day at Dhuhr, this Shaykh was never there in the congregational prayer. And so one day, the man happened to travel to Mecca. And when he went to Mecca, he saw his Shaykh praying behind the imam at the mosque in Mecca. And the Shaykh was surprised. The man was surprised. So he went to the imam and said, "Do you know this man?" And the imam told him, "Yes, he comes every day to pray the Dhuhr prayer with us. And then he leaves and goes back to wherever country he's from." So thus, the Sufis use this story to say that this is one of the miracles that Allah endows upon their sheikhs. They can travel a 2-hour journey miraculously every day and pray in the Prophet's mosque and then be back for the next prayer in their city. This is just an example of how the Sufis come up with these stories about the miracles that they claim Allah shows to their scholars. Okay, and again, Shaykh Atli says that these stories are well known. These are things that he's seen. He said even the way they worship contradicts the way we worship. He said as a child, he would see big flags with the Shahada written on it and people marching the street in green and white, and they would beat drums. And as he grew up, he learned that these were all innovations. These were gatherings where they used the drum and the flute to remember Allah, even though Allah commands us not to do that. In fact, Allah tells us in the Quran, in the interpretation of meaning, he was talking about the Quraysh. Their prayer at the house of Allah is nothing but whistling and the clapping of hands. Okay, we can't do that. We don't go to the mosque to whistle and clap hands, but that's what these Sufis do. They walk around, they go to the mosques to worship with drums and flutes and all of that. Okay. And they also wear special clothing. They wear green clothes, red turbans, and all of this nonsense. Brown belts, long thicker beads, and they carry flags to classify their grouping. And again, Shaykh Atli speaks about how karamat, or miracles, Allah explains to us that miracles occur only when someone is righteous. And as a result, Allah will honor that person by causing something out of the ordinary to happen. And again, these miraculous occurrences are only experienced by righteous people. The Sufis claim to be righteous. They claim that their sheikhs are righteous. Another such story that they tell is of a sheikh who used to enter a town. And when he would enter the town, he knew everyone by name, even though he never been there before. They claim that one day, this sheikh was able to cause a lion to submit to him. And he used to ride around the city on the back of this lion as if the lion were a horse or a donkey. And one day, the people transgressed against the sheikh, and he told the ocean to take this person. And the ocean came all the way from where it was to the city and swallowed this person. Also, this same sheikh, they say the people entered this man's house and they used to see him sitting in the air without a chair. They even said he had 7 eyes. So these are examples of some of the stories that the Sufis make up about their sheikh. Another story, they said a famous sheikh was given authority over everything by Allah. He was able to command the trees, the waters. He could even talk about the unseen. They say that one of the people went to this sheikh who was known to go through different stages. He went to visit him in his house and he saw him sitting in the form of a lion. Another time he saw him sitting in the form of an elephant. And another time he came, the sheikh was a little infant. They say that this sheikh used to take dirt from the ground, give it to the people, and the dirt would turn into gold. Okay. And another story, another sheikh used to take one piece of watermelon and was able to feed all his students from that one piece. So these are just some of the many examples of how Sufis come up with stories as to show or to make you, to attempt to make you believe that their sheikh, their scholars, are so righteous. Another popular story is about another sheikh who had a dog. And all the other dogs used to follow this dog. Wherever the dog would go, the other dogs would join him. If the dog would stop walking, they would stop walking too. One day, the sheikh sent for the dog and he told the dog, be doomed. And as soon as he said that, all the other dogs began to attack that dog. Another sheikh saw what was happening and he stopped the other dogs, and the other dogs began to follow that dog again. And whenever the people needed something, they would go to the dog and ask the dog. When the dog became sick and died, they claim all the other dogs gathered around him and cried. And the people made a grave and a dome over it for the dog, and they would visit the dome of the dog. So again, as we know, Allah doesn't allow miracles to happen with things that are haram. Having a dog as a pet, building a dome for a dog, dogs crying, come on. But these are the stories that the Sufis tell. Okay, so this is a wonderful session of the book, that shows how Sufis claim to have karamat. They claim to be able to experience all type of miraculous feats. But most of the acts of miraculous feats are caused by haram sources, such as musical instruments, twirling in circles, animals like dogs, calling upon something other than Allah, and these type of things. So we have to be wary of that. And so that's what I wanted to cover in the book for today. Next week, we're going to speak about how they worship. because Sheikh Atlee goes into a little detail in the next couple of chapters of his book, illustrating how the way the Sufis actually worship Allah is in contradiction to how Allah taught us to worship him. So I'm going to stop right here. If you guys have any questions or comments, inshallah, you can ask them. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu